So in our first conversation, we focused primarily on Poudre Valley community farms uh, and cooperatives more generally. And recently, you've been involved with 63rd Street Farm here in Boulder County, and it sounds like that's becoming a cooperative farm.
Indeed, it is. My family's actually been a CSA member there for the past 6 years or so.
Oh,
We were part of their sophomore CSA class, if you will. So we've gotten to know the Scotts over the years, and they have nourished our family, and we've been part of the same food system. You know, of course, it's fun to take all of our compost and go feed their pigs, and then in turn, their pigs feed us. We've gotten our Thanksgiving turkeys there for 5 of the last couple of years, and I've just been a strong part of that community. And talking with them over the years and having them attend a summit that I co-hosted with Tabor Ward of Mountain Flower Dairy, we talked about the confluence of local food production and cooperatives, and that really planted a seed that would later germinate and become the inspiration for 63rd Street Farm launching a cooperative.
so I'm assuming that the structure is that the CSA members are actually owners in the farm. Is that how this works?
Yeah, and to back up a little bit, the Scotts have been operating the farm as owners of the land and the farm for close to a decade. And they've had this itch that's grown over the years to see something mature that's much, much bigger than just a farm. Not that producing food for the community is it's not mere, it's really abundant and quite enough, but they've always wanted something grander. And as an organic business, and not using these words with any intent for double entendre, but it's been tough to bootstrap. And the cooperative in many sectors has been a platform for expansion, growth, and propagation of a vision. And so they have been looking for the right way to go about growing the business beyond a CSA for vegetable production. And so initially, the co-op will be kind of a step up from the CSA, where the CSA members will come together to co-own the cooperative and essentially own the farm and hire the inputs, the labor, and all the inputs that go into producing the CSA shares every year. But eventually the plan is for that to grow into something much, much larger with value add food products, growing their egg and meat share, and growing into potentially a commercial kitchen and canning, preserving, and a variety of other products and services that they can offer to the community.
So the CSA members came together, formed a cooperative.
In the process of doing that, it's being
in
led
by,
it's in the various ways that a cooperative is formed. This is being kind of incubated by the current business owners. And so we're in the process of engaging a steering committee, a representative segment of the CSA membership, to talk about what this means, educate them on the cooperative, and develop a robust business plan that generates sufficient interest to launch the co-op and ensure it's viable.
And so is the idea that the cooperative then will actually purchase the farm?
Yes, that's right. Still in discussion as to whether that will include the underlying land itself or whether that will include all of the improvements to the land and the farm business itself. It's part of the discussion right now, and
sure.
But it's an interesting discussion, and one that you rarely have when thinking about a traditional real estate transaction or traditional business succession transaction. But we have a lot of aligned interests between the CSA members and the owners, and it's really about coming up with a plan and a structure that works for everyone. So it's quite a magical process to be a part of.
So is there sufficient capital among the CSA members to be able to buy the farm, either the land or the operations?
Well, certainly, we hope so, and we believe so, and we're in the process of now determining that, in fact, there's not only sufficient capital but sufficient interest to do this as a cooperative with level buy-in from all members, so that we can truly own it democratically. And that's part of really any feasibility analysis, is to determine that there's a sufficient pool of buyers. And so we're going through that process now.
Well, it seems like that's a really important development in the trajectory of the evolution of CSAs.
It is. It's really exciting. CSAs, which have been around since before I was born, have been really on the spectrum toward democratic management, stewardship of a farm business, insofar as the CSA pre-subscribes for the harvest of the farm, and in a lot of ways acts as farm insurance, acts as a risk pool, and acts as advance credit for the farm business. And so in a lot of ways, it's a really important stepping stone to cooperative ownership. The only thing missing is actual ownership.
Yes.
And what ownership gives is a long-term commitment that allows the business to take more risk, measured risk, to embark on a bolder, longer-term vision. The CSA is this annual cyclical thing, and while absolutely critical to the sustainability of local farming, it's not always enough to plan beyond that 1 year, because the only thing the farmer can do is look at what they have left over at the end of the year. Anybody who's in that business knows that margins are slim to none, and that's not why people do it. And so it's really difficult to bootstrap an expansion, bootstrap a new business venture, and going from CSA to cooperative, that provides the financial, the community, and the energetic platform to do those things, which is just so exciting. And it becomes a more self-sustaining trust, if you will. It's almost like a private land trust to preserve ownership of the land in the community, or of the farm operation in the community, and remove it from the risk that's shouldered by the farmers. And if we as a community hope to continue to feed our families with produce grown down the road, we need to ensure that the farmers aren't taking a disproportionate amount of risk to do a disproportionate amount of work. We need to share in that. And so it's really about an elevated form of community-supported agriculture.
And it also solves one of the problems that we've seen in many CSAs, which is the rate of turnover in CSA customers, which is often right around 50% each year. So the farm has to spend a lot of time and effort and money in acquiring new customers every year just to keep even.
That's right. And that costs money, that takes time, and it detracts from the real business of running the farm, which is hard enough. And I will say that cooperatives in general do better at retention and reducing quote unquote sales acquisition costs than most conventional business models, because they involve ownership and commitment, both financial and philosophical, energetic, that as a business model, we see, and the data supports this notion that cooperatives have much, much higher retention rates, which in turn frees up time, energy, and financial resources to do the business of the co-op, as well as to look at expansion. And we're hopeful that this will do just that. In addition, we think that by creating long-term ownership relationships, this will incentivize owners to pass along that ownership stake to future generations. So I, as a member, am strongly incentivized to pass this notion, this concept, as well as my actual ownership share, to my children if they chose to live here. This is not a financial instrument, but it's a participatory interest, and that's something
Yeah.
that becomes really a pillar in our family. And that's what's so exciting about helping the farm as well as helping ourselves, as we can pass on this legacy in our family and in the families of all the other owners.
How many members are there right now in the farm?
To my knowledge, there are around 350 CSA members.
350. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes them, I believe, one of the larger CSAs in town.
Yeah, I think so. When we were getting started in all this in Boulder County about 12 years ago, there were only about 125 CSA memberships available in the entire county.
Wow, I'd be curious to know what that number is today. I'm guessing it's close to 1,000 or over 1,000.
I think it's over 1,000. Yeah, which is very exciting. But this. So is there precedence for this elsewhere in the country? Are other CSAs converting to co-ops that you know of?
To my knowledge, there is not yet a notable precedent or a notable movement, I should say. There is precedent out there. There's a multi-stakeholder cooperative in Oregon in the Willamette Valley known as Our Forks, I believe it is. And they are, in fact, they were started by an entrepreneur who made quite a bit of money in the tech sector in the 90s and early 2000s, and became a devotee of the local food scene there and started a multi-stakeholder co-op. It has a different structure, and I don't entirely understand the business model. I also think there's another co-op farm in Maine somewhere. I'm certain that I'm omitting living examples, as is common in the co-op world, but we didn't have a model to base this on, other than our kind of sister co-op up the road, Poudre Valley Community Farm, and some of the other inspiration that comes from real estate co-ops and housing co-ops, where there's a tangible asset that the co-op comes together to own. So we pulled from different sectors to come up with a model. And as I said, we're still in development, and the story is evolving, week by week and month by month.
One of the older CSAs in the country is Angelic Organics up in Illinois. There was a documentary done about the farmer there, The Real Dirt on Farmer John. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
Yeah. No. So I don't think that they formed a cooperative, but I do recall that the CSA members at one point, because the farmer was about to lose his land, they joined together I believe that they purchased the land together.
That's interesting. And I've been that question, we talked about this in our last session, that question, that issue will come up time and again. The question of land access and preserving land for working agriculture will be perennial challenges, and the cooperative model, I think, is uniquely suited. There are other parcels and other historic and spiritually important land parcels around the county that are considering stewardship models, and the cooperative keeps coming up as a way to preserve without having to kind of nestle the land in a nonprofit, in a foundation, or in a trust. This provides for democratized stewardship, which has certain benefits that may be important. So yeah, not an exact template, but we're seeing little kind of examples and sources of inspiration pop up, and that example in Illinois is quite interesting. That reminded me of one of the powerful, the power of the CSA, which is, as you know, we had a pretty historic flood in Boulder County in 2013.
Yes.
And 63rd Street Farm fell victim to quite a bit of damage. And what was so unbelievably inspiring, gives me goosebumps to think about and talk about, was how the CSA members, and way beyond the CSA, members of the local food scene came together to help support the rebuilding of 63rd Street Farm. What was so interesting was, while totally unnecessary, 63rd Street Farm felt compelled to pay it forward for the members who were unable to collect the balance of their CSA. And out of the goodness of their heart, they helped organize and actually were able to bring in donated food and donated chef time from the Escoffier School to put on this massive farm dinner for all the CSA members. And it was this beautiful event. But what struck me most was how the CSA members signed up en masse early for the next CSA season. We came together and said, we're here for you. And as a form of private farm insurance, 63rd Street Farm was able to essentially capitalize the entire 2013 harvest from the CSA memberships earlier that year. And through the 2014 CSA, we were able to come back and have devoted CSA members come back and show support and recapitalize the farm for the next harvest. And it was that kind of resiliency that was just so fascinating to see. And, and it inspires me and others working on this to see how, as a co-op, we can deepen the commitment to farm resilience and shared risk and shared commitment.
Well, we hear a lot of talk in the local food movement about how local food can regenerate community in a nation where the sense of community has nearly disappeared, and this seems a really powerful example of it actually happening.
Yeah, I believe so. I hope so, and I'm seeing signs of that. The support that I've seen, and I haven't seen it firsthand nearly as much as the Scots have, has been tremendous. Members who want to know more, but say, we're here for you. You've been basically a part of our family. You have nourished our family.
Yeah.
We want to be here to support this next chapter. Tell us what to do. Tell us what's next.
Well, we feel that what we see happening around farms this way is as the farm's customers get increasingly involved in supporting the farm, becoming actually part of it. That's an indication of a genuine revolution that's going on. We're just seeing the tip of the iceberg, but it's starting to happen, and it's very, very encouraging. I was just remembering back in 2013 after the flood, we got a call from Amanda. Within a day or two after the flood, all of their chicken feed had been wiped out. They needed to buy a big bunch of chicken feed immediately. They had no cash. And we went to the Boulder Slow Money Investment Club just describing their plight, and immediately 2 members just wrote checks. It was just as contributions to be able to support the farm. So it's really important for people to be connected with their local farmers. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, and I think what that example shows is that there's a willingness and there's a need, and we need to find a way to structure and systematize that alignment so that it can be scaled, so that it can provide for a durable commitment upon which growth can be planned, a vision can be executed. It's nice and it's important and it's vital that support is there when needed on a case-by-case basis, but it's even more important that there's a foundation that allows for long-term growth, commitment to long-term growth capital. Yes. And the co-op will provide that, because nobody's in this to make a buck. No one on either side of a co-op, particularly this time, is looking to make money. This is about voting with our dollars and supporting the things that matter to us. And what's so fascinating, and I think what undergirds the legal the legal structure of a cooperative and the ways that it fits within and is exempt from a lot of onerous regulation, is the idea that our currency is not capital gains, it's not financial gain.
Yes.
Our currency here is in fact the food.
Yes.
Our return on investment is not only the weekly food that we go pick up, but ensuring that that will be there year after year after year. And it's just so wonderful to be spawning new currency,
Yeah.
and currency, that has really no comparable financial value, but it's so critically important and valued by so many in the community.
It's very organic.
It is very organic. Yeah. Yeah. The double entendres can go on and run deep for sure.
So I mean, we talked earlier about this movement that we're seeing towards cooperatives. That's increasing, and I know that you have co-founded the Colorado Cooperative Developers.
Yes, that's right.
And I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit about that and the kind of work you're doing there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting. My colleague Linda Phillips, who has been a longtime friend, cooperative conspirator, and a mentor of mine, launched Colorado Cooperative Developers in the spring of 2016 as essentially a canvas upon which to practice the multidisciplinary work of cooperative development. Each of us maintains a separate law practice, but we found that in our law practice, we were both doing the legal work to form or convert a cooperative business, but with that came really necessary and integrated work with organizational development, marketing, business planning, capital raising, and the integration of those disciplines formed a package that was vital to the launch of a successful cooperative. And so we felt it was important to kind of rebrand how that work is done and what goes into creating a successful cooperative. It's much, much more than just the bylaws and the contracts that make a business run. It's knowing, how things can play out. It's understanding the business considerations that go into how the co-op will run, forming the business plan, and really bringing an idea to life and making sure that it's done with real diligence, analysis, and especially when taking capital from members, that there's a really well thought out plan of attack behind it, and that it will be governed and managed in a prudent way. And so we help with all of that work. And so we've partnered with lots of the area development centers, the Rocky Mountain Employee Ownership Center, Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, to speak at events. We do a lot of conference speaking and education.
Right.
And in our own practices, we do a good bit of research and education as well. And so we're putting together tools, and we're participating in the region's now growing co-op scene to advance the collective understanding and knowledge. We're building interactive tools and toolkits so that folks can kind of learn the vocabulary and begin to apply some of the foundational knowledge to their own project, and still have access to the resources they need, be it legal, business, advisory, or leadership.
Are there similar cooperative development centers around the country?
There are. Most of them are nonprofit cooperative development centers. Rocky Mountain Farmers Union has an urban cooperative development center. Rocky Mountain Employee Ownership Center is more of an outreach and education center, but is working on bills and has passed a bill in the state legislature here in Colorado to begin to fund a development center for employee ownership conversions. Colorado Co-op Developers is not a business. It's a collaboration of two separate law practices. And so as such, we don't have any ongoing projects under Colorado Co-op Developers. It's the kind of holding vessel for the services that we each provide under our separate law practices. But we're getting more and more requests for the kind of research and speaking that might kind of force us to adopt a business model and hire some support, some analysis support, so that we can put out research and white papers to assist in the projects that are getting started.
One of the really interesting cooperatives that you've been involved in, I'd love for you to talk about, which is the taxi cooperative.
Sure. Yeah, Green Taxi Cooperative based in Englewood in Denver, Colorado, is the second largest worker cooperative in the country, according to our research. They have the capacity for 800 owners. They currently have a little over 400 owners, and they launched in the market about a year ago after a very lengthy regulatory process to determine and be approved to operate in the market. The members, come from 37 different countries around the world. They speak collectively well over 100 languages.
Wow.
And for many of them, this is the first opportunity of business ownership. And this, for many of them, they talk every day. This is their American dream, to have come to this country, to have fled something, in many cases that was horrible in their home country, and to have left their family, their friends, their life for America. This is what they dreamt of. And many of them, prior to joining Green Taxi, would drive for another service where they paid onerous lease fees, or they drove for one of the TNC companies. And after paying, for their overhead, their vehicle, and paying the fee to the technology company, were in many cases barely able to break even. And to do that, they were driving, in many cases, 12, 14, 18, 20 hours in a day.
Wow.
Unhealthy living, not sleeping, barely able to see their family. And what they say time and again is that Green Taxi, which has a completely different business model, gives them the time back to nourish a family, to become healthy, and to afford to fund and have the time to strive for higher levels of education and to pursue some higher calling. Some of them are helping a family member through graduate school. They themselves are going on to graduate school. And this is truly providing a sustainable living wage for their family to be able to strive for, and in many cases, reach a middle class. And it's just been unbelievable. And they have their struggles as a new company, but they're able to approach it with transparency and with democratic engagement from their owners. And it's a different experience. I will tell you, having firsthand been in Green Taxi cabs and other taxi cabs, these folks know their business. And Green Taxi, incidentally, has the highest number of female driver owners of any taxi company in Denver. And actually, there's an archive of a radio show that I co-hosted on that will air on June 22nd at 6 p.m. and it'll be archived at coloradocoop.info, which has an interview with the co-founder and president, Abdi Booney. And so we can make the archive information available to listeners.
That would be great. Yeah, we can include that in the summit, so it'll be available to people. Yeah.
Great.
Well, it must be very gratifying to be involved in these kinds of projects.
Extremely rewarding, but really humbling to help fulfill a vision that others have, and they have the gumption to go after it. So most of all, I'm honored to play a part in helping these projects, see the light of day and hopefully materially help people's lives.
Well, it's very encouraging to see all of this happen, and to me it's an indication of a deep yearning in the heartland of this country for approaches that are radically different from what our society has become accustomed to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the silver linings to the political dysfunction in Washington and politicization of our national and even state politics is that many over the last decade since the Great Recession are turning to self-help models to better their own lives, the lives of their family and communities. And the cooperative is not a new structure. It's not a new model.
Yeah.
It's age old. It was practiced by Native Americans centuries ago. It has been a dominant form of business enterprise in Northern and Western Europe for more than a century. It played a material role in the Industrial Revolution in the UK. And we're seeing its resurgence because people are yearning for some semblance of control over their own lives and in their community. And the cooperative model gives us an opportunity to leverage democracy, which is flailing in our politics, community, which is eroding in our daily lives, and our capital, which many, many people are starting to see that in a lot of ways our financial structure is predicated on the same extractive forces that have gotten us to where we are. And so when we can find a structure that allows us to divest from things we feel bad about, invest in things we care about, and support community, build democracy, support civic engagement, I think it's just a win-win across the board. And I'm excited. I think this is durable. And I think this is really the outcome of the last decade of our politics. And sector by sector, I'm seeing projects that are encouraging, revolutionizing our health system, revolutionizing our internet data privacy protocols, revolutionizing transportation, food. Industry by industry, we're seeing models emerge. And time and again, the cooperative provides this tool set and this solution set that it optimizes for what people care about. And it's this natural affinity that people have. And I'm excited to see what develops in the next few years. It's been just an exciting ride.
Yeah, we're excited too. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And thank you for your contribution to the Local Food Summit here. It's a pleasure to be able to let other people know about what's happening here and what it means for them, because this could be applied anywhere.
It's truly my pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
Yep. Thank you.
And then I want to come back and say that I don't know if you've talked to Woody recently, but his nonprofit investment club, Soil, is finally getting launched, and it occurs to me that it would be great to have you come in as a speaker sometime relatively soon.
I'd be happy to. Yeah, I've been meaning to get lunch with Woody for some time, and I know that he's finishing up his book, so when his calendar opens up, I'd love to participate.
Yeah, great. Okay, I'm going to see Woody. We had a meeting last night. Then we have a dinner on Friday night with some new people coming into this new model.
Great.
But people, it's a. The new model is such a relief from the strictures of the old model of a for-profit LLC, requiring a return on investment, just to make it a nonprofit with zero interest loans, where the voting is completely democratized. Whether you've put in $100 or $100,000, you only get one vote. I think it's going to change things. It's going to change the way people think about money and think about engagement in our local food system. So it's exciting. Yeah.
That is exciting.
Yeah. Good stuff happening.
Oh, I just love it. Yeah. There's more happening than one can learn about. And
Yeah.
that's what's
Yeah.
so exciting. There's always something new. It's a very active,
Right. Yeah.
and again, the analogy I think is worth extending. There's just there's diversity in the
Yes. Yeah.
ideas and in trials and tribulations. It's really, we're in this wonderful experimentation phase, and that's exciting as well, because we don't have to pick a winner. We don't have to adopt
Yeah.
a model. We can see how each and every example plays out and pick the parts that fit best. So.
Well, one of the things I heard about you early on was that you bring a level of creativity to all of this that's really, really important. It's not cookie cutter.
No.
You get in and you think and feel through what is really needed and begin to assemble what's possible. Yeah.
Thanks for saying that. I appreciate hearing that.
So we will be in touch with you soon. We'll set up some time to explore, what we can do. But it's clear that the principles that are emerging here are things that we would like to apply to what we're doing as well. So
Sounds great.